I found this, so I made this. Hey, how you doing? My name's Rounded Tic Tac, and welcome back to another video. We got this comment from Clint. Have you tried anything with Lightning Storm? I wanted to play a Druid caster class, but none of the builds seemed strong. Would love to hear your thoughts. That led us down this rabbit hole where we ended up with an absolute masterclass of a build. As you can tell, we are off Pulverize. I did 2 builds on it. I feel like I explored everything, and I wanted to try something not meta. I know that Wolf NATO is the best build for Druid in the game, but me personally, I don't like playing meta things. I never have. I like to pick things that are unused and make them good. That is where we are right now. With Lightning Druid, in my opinion, it is the second fastest mapping class for Druid. The clear speed is absolutely insane. As I'm talking, there's a clip going on behind me where I was at a Legion event and there was a Wolf NATO Druid behind me and he was trying to kill things, but he couldn't get close to the enemies fast enough before I deleted them out of existence. This build is so quick. I think the only thing it's missing is teleport on Shred, and it would be #1 at clearing maps. It is insane. Single target damage is pretty damn decent as well. As you guys saw in that early intro, we are killing bosses sometimes instantaneously. The first clip in that is a level 51 Nightmare Dungeon on 4-player difficulty, and I soloed it in less than 2 seconds. Insane damage. I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. And the survivability is pretty damn good too. You have a lot of the reduced damage from poison, reduced damage from while injured. You have all the fortify from all the Paragon Druid stuff. The build is fantastic. If you're looking for something a little different to play and a little more niche to play, this is definitely the build for you. I promise you, you will not regret it, but it is a Tempest Roar build. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. There are a couple of tricks with Lightning Storm Druid, and one of the main things I want to talk about is Lightning Storm is a channeled ability, which means you have to stand still to cast it. But unlike other channeled abilities, the longer you hold it down, the bigger the AoE becomes. So as you can see here, we'll start with 1 and go all the way up to 5 lightning strikes. And then that is your maximum. You can see down here, this bar holds for 6 seconds. And as long as you cast Lightning Storm within those 6 seconds, you will get the full 5 strikes instead of starting at 1 again. This is important for a couple of reasons, but we'll talk about the other portion of it in just a second. So keep that in mind. So you want to keep that up at 5 ranks as all times as you are mapping throughout the dungeon. So as soon as you get it up to 5, you just want to make sure every 1 out of 6 seconds, you press the button to be able to get the maximum amount. That allows us to clear rooms so fast, it's absolutely ridiculous. Besides that, though, there is another trick that I want to talk to you guys about. As your Lightning Storm gets larger and larger, you will start to find you may have issues hitting a single target with it. That is where you can kind of game the system. If you are at 0, you see our thing went back down, so we are at 1, and you hold it for 3 strikes. Now we have 3 strikes. As long as you don't hold the button down and just press the button, you will stay at those 3 strikes. So that allows for scenarios like that, where the enemies are more single target and you can hit all 3 strikes almost guaranteed instead of having your lightning strikes hit around them, behind them, etc. So for single target or smaller packs, clicking the button will keep it at that 3 rank. The second to last thing I want to mention is clicking the ability versus holding the ability will actually increase its DPS. So you can attack faster by clicking than you can by holding the button down. So if you're trying to DPS down a boss or a tanky enemy, go up next to them and click instead of click and hold, and you will be doing much more damage than you would normally. It hits about probably 0.3 seconds faster for every single strike as long as you're clicking. So that is a tip to allow you to do more single target damage, because the AoE on this build is never going to be an issue. The absolute last thing I want to talk about is that weapon attack speed actually affects this build. Now, what do I mean by that? So weapons only, not attack speed on your gear, but weapons only. As we know, two-handers attack slower than one-handers. Originally, I was running this staff. And yeah, it hits really, really hard. But the main goal of this build is to do as many lightning strikes as we can really, really quickly. So I switched to a one-hander. And the one-hander attack speed, the lightning cast speed, is faster. Is it insanely faster? No, but it is faster. So keep that in mind. You can run this build 100% without running a two-handed setup or one-handed setup. And if you have some monster two-handed weapon, feel free to use it. It absolutely wrecks as well. So keep that in mind as you guys are trying this build. But those are 4 tips for this build to make it feel and play a lot better. And now let's get into the items. So let's talk about gear real quick. As you guys have been playing more and more, I'm sure everybody understands the gear and concepts of gearing a little bit better. So we're going to go over this pretty quickly, but I'm going to talk about some key points that you may want to be on the lookout for. First of all, we're using Tempest Roar. The reason we are is because of the last perk. Your base storm skills are now also your werewolf skills, which allows us to double dip into multiple damage pools. For your chest piece, if you are running level 40 to like level 50 content, feel free to just dump as much damage onto your chest piece as possible. We are not using Mad Wolf's Glee. If you have that, feel free to use it. If you're going above 50, you're going to want to start having your chest piece look like this, where you want maybe a little bit of damage, but mainly you're looking for damage reduction on your chest piece. I haven't found anything better than this, but I'm trying to push this build into 75, 80 level nightmare dungeons, and I'm doing my best to find the most damage reduction because the damage we have is insane. Staying alive is the issue. For our gauntlets, we have very similar stuff, +4 ranks to Lightning Storm. Storm skill cooldown reduction, that's to keep our hurricane up as much as we can. We have 9.8 critical strike chance and more damage with werewolf skills. Speaking of critical strike chance on our build, we are almost at 50%, which is insane. For the rest of our items here, we have our pants. You guys know the deal. You just want as much damage reduction as possible. I have +4 ranks to hurricane on mine. Not necessary, just the best I had. And this is, of course, with disobedience on it as the aspect because it's the most broken defensive aspect in the entire game. For their boots, we are looking for movement speed. We are looking for spirit cost reduction, total armor while werewolf, damage reduction while injured, damage reduction, anything like that. And for our aspect, we have while unstoppable for 4 seconds after you gain 22% movement speed. Since we are doing our best to keep Grizzly Rage up at all times, this is an unstoppable ability, so we gain that 22 movement speed the entire time, and for 4 seconds afterwards. It is a fantastic utility perk to put on your boots. For our necklace, my necklace sucks. I stole it off my bear build because I don't have one better. You are looking for spirit cost reduction, cooldown reduction. Both of these on this amulet are pretty decent. Then you are looking for +3 ranks to Envenom. If you can't find that, Defiance is fine to use. And also another one that rolls is this one over here that you can get +3 as well, Wild Impulses. Both of those are secondary that you were looking for, but you are looking for +3 in Venom. Don't mind the Earth skill damage. Like I said, I pulled it off my Pulverized Druid. And then for our aspect, we have your core skills deal up to 60% increased damage based on your Fortify. We are constantly fortified because Grizzly Rage provides it for free for us, so we get that bonus damage at all times. Then for our rings, we have vulnerable damage, lightning critical strike damage, lucky hit chance, critical strike chance, things like that. You guys know the deal. On our aspect here, we have up to a 10% chance while dealing lightning damage to overload a target for 3 seconds, causing any direct damage you deal to them to pulse for 8,357 additional damage to surrounding enemies. Now, when you see like the deletion of enemies really quick, I think this is what's happening. We get a couple of lucky hits back to back, and this damage number just stacks, and basically blows up the enemy. For this aspect, do it at the codex because you'll get the higher damage number, but you'll get the less lucky hit chance. But since we're hitting so many enemies at once anyway, lucky hit chance is not a stat you definitely want to do. You're looking for vulnerable damage like usual. And then for our other one here, We have critical strike chance, vulnerable damage, damage to crowd control, and lucky hit chance. And then, of course, we have the duration of Grisly Rage is increased by 5 seconds, and we can scale our crit damage with the secondary part of that aspect. Now, for our weapons, we can use on this build a two-hander. I was using this one right here, which is critical strike chance to werewolf skills, vulnerable damage, all stats, critical strike damage. This mace, or this, whatever this is, axe, absolutely wrecked things. But it kept our cooldown of Grisly Rage at about 10 to 12 seconds after getting out of the form. And with this, it's like 6 seconds with the one-hander setup. So while I was pushing harder content, keeping Grisly Rage up is super important. So I went with this setup instead. But on our weapons, we have vulnerable damage, willpower, critical strike damage, werewolf skill damage, and we are using, of course, Dire Wolf, which allows us to use Grisly Rage as a wolf form and gives us a bunch of movement speed and damage reduction. So this is, and spirit cost reduction, which allows us to spam Lightning Storm for free. And then lastly here, so this is important, and we're going to go right into the skill tree talking about this item. So here you're looking for cooldown reduction to keep our Grisly Rage up at all times, whatever else you may have lying around, but you really want cooldown reduction. If you're pushing harder content, you want to find damage reduction on this thing plus cooldown reduction. Currently, I have the aspect where you stand still, you deal up to 30% more damage. Now, is this what I want on this weapon? Not really. The only reason it's here is because it is a max roll. It is not bad by any means. Our attack power goes up from 6849 all the way up to 8219, 8904, just from this right here. It is not bad. What I really want on this thing is Edge Masters, but I can't seem to find a max roll, and I don't want to take away this max roll of this aspect until I find a max rolled aspect of Edge Masters. That gives us a 20% thing, but we don't have to stand still for it. The other option you guys have, and this is where we'll go directly into the build, is this. The Earthen Might Key passive also applies to your storm skills. Now, this changes the build a little bit, but feel free to use either one of them, because honestly, they both slap. If your spirit reduction, if you're having issues with spirit, run this one instead and change out the last perk of your passive skill tree. The last thing, change it. Speaking of skills, let's jump right into it and talk about exactly what we're doing here. We're only taking 2 points into Storm Strike. We don't need any extra vulnerable chance. We have our Hurricane, and we have 1,000 ways to apply it with Lightning Storm. We're getting 3 out of 3 Wild Impulses. We're coming up to Lightning Storm, and we're getting Primal Lightning Storm. The extra one thing here isn't necessary. The AoE is big enough regardless, and for bosses, it's actually useless. We're coming down here. We're only getting 1 point into Predatory Instinct because we are basically a ranged class. Things next to us end up killing us. Digigrade Gate, we want 3 points in that to move super fast. We're taking Earthen Bulwark. A lot of people take Cyclone Storm. Feel free to experiment. I like the Unstoppable from this, and it's an oh shit button for me. I really prefer it that way, but feel free to try out Cyclone Storm as well, because you can use this one while Shapeshift. You can't use this while Shapeshift. Blood Howl, this is interesting because the secondary point here gives us basically infinite Blood Howl. Basically infinite. You can spam it constantly. We're taking plus 20 spirit in case we do get into some shitty spirit situations where we do run out. But this allows us to get vigilance, and this is on a 0-second cooldown. So we have 15% damage reduction forever. It is absolutely fantastic. I definitely recommend trying that out. We're coming down here for Nature's Reach, of course, because we are a range build. Then we grab 1 point into Elemental Exposure, 1 point into Endless Tempest, 3 points into Bad Omen, and 3 points into Electric Shock. This allows us to do 18% more damage as long as they are immobilized, which they constantly are due to what we picked up here. Then we're getting 1 point into Hurricane, and then going into Hurricane has a 15% chance to make enemies vulnerable. If you find yourself dying a lot, feel free to go with this one, but because of my Paragon tree and how it's set up, we're basically getting this for free anyway, so I went this one for bosses to make them vulnerable again. Then we're coming down here. We want Neurotoxin. We want 1 point in Toxic Claws. That makes all of our Lightning Storms poison them. And then we get extra 30% crit damage while poisoned. Again, you want a +3 necklace or Envenom. Then we're coming down here. We have Defiance. This is currently what my necklace gives us bonus to. We have Natural Disaster, which gives us a 12% extra damage. And then we have Resonance for plus 4% more. You can take these 2 points out and put them elsewhere if you are dying a lot. We're going down to Grizzly Rage, all the way down here to Primal Grizzly Rage and Supreme Grizzly Rage. Now, here's the thing. So if you aren't using Storm skills are now work for Earthen Might, I like Lupine Ferocity. Big fan of it. Since we're hitting so many enemies, like literally screens full of enemies, we get this 6th proc every single time we press the button. Every single time we press the button, we get this to proc. It is absolutely insane, and we constantly get this bonus damage. However, if you have resource generation issues, try Earthen Might with Mighty Storms. This one, Earthen Might key passive, also applies to your storm skills. I feel like, personal opinion here, they both work completely fine. I've played them both for many hours. I think that this one is more consistent. This one is more fun. This one for harder content, this one for map clearing. That would be my suggestion. As you can see, I'm literally keeping both on my character depending on what I plan on doing, and I just swap them out as needed because it's only 1 skill point switch. That is the items. That is the skill tree. The only thing we got left is the damn Paragon board. But don't worry, there will be a link down in the description below for you guys to follow along with. So the Paragon tree for this is a little bit different. So let me just explain what we're doing here. We have currently Spirit on our first one, but as I'm pushing harder content, I take this off and I put Werewolf here simply for the 10% damage reduction. We can lose out on flat critical strike damage with core skills because of Grizzly Rage, and it stacks it and scales it anyway. So this isn't a huge loss for us like it would be for another class. The 10% damage reduction while pushing harder content is more valuable to this class, to this build, than that extra little bit of damage. We kill way fast enough anyway, literally off-screening enemies. We need to stay alive from that random spear, that random porcupine quill that will one-shot us from 3 screens away. Then we're grabbing the Thunderstruck tree. We come over here, we grab Tempest, then we grab Thunderstruck, then we grab Deluge, then we go all the way up here into Keeper. Now this is another weird one which I need to talk about. This is another one that we kept swapping out for Werewolf for, but we ended up going with this because it ends up giving us almost the exact same amount as damage as the additive Werewolf damage, and this gives us 10% multiplicative lightning damage. Plus, and this is why we ended up going this way, it also gives us 18% damage reduction from vulnerable enemies, and it gives us 45% extra storm skill damage. So keep that in mind. That is why we leveled up Keeper, and this is not the Werewolf one, but that is the reason why. From here, we're going to go up here into the Lust for Carnage. This allows us to do extra Werewolf skill damage, again over here, and the glyph is plus lightning damage for Fulminate. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to grab into the Heightened Malice, into the Constructing Tendrils legendary tree, but we're not going to grab that. And we're just going to put 9 points of dexterity into our exploit glyph because it's just so stupidly strong. We're going to come down here onto the Heightened Malice tree and just get the legendary perk. This is just for a little poison resistance and maximum life. Then back to the Thunder tree, we're going to go right here, and then we're going to go back to the Heightened Malice tree, and we're going to socket in Earth and Sky, which allows us to gain the bonus poison damage from these nodes here, which is huge for us. We're going to come down here and we're going to grab these spirit cost reduction nodes that allows us to keep our spirit and get more spirit on kill. And then lastly, we're going to come up here and grab Ancestral Guidance for the 30% multiplicative damage modifier. That is the Paragon tree. Again, there will be a link down in the description below. That is the entire build with footage and gameplay and the reason why we're using everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and if you guys want to check me out live at twitch.tv/roundedtictac, we would love to have you. If you're a fan of crappy dad jokes, then I am your guy. Thank you guys so much. I will see you on the next one. Tic Tac out.